Okay, guys, so this is Will Farlow. I'm the host of Will's Fifth Quarter Special, the podcast that's all about sports. There's a lot of local Illinois State sports that have started the podcast so far, just so that we can, get everything started and situated. And I'm so glad that a lot of people have already reached out to this podcast as it started just a few weeks ago, and it's already unimaginable that there's 5 episodes so far and more to come. It's really exciting for me. And when I was a young boy, I fell in love with sports, and I've always wanted to give it back my love of sports and what I believe about it to other people like they have to me. So I hope people that are joining in, and I could see there's a few people, hey guys, on the live feed here, that you will comment and reach out, because we're gonna talk about a few very interesting points going on in sports this week. We have the big NFL championship game coming up Sunday. So since the podcast is going to be every other week while I'm in school this semester, I'm going to try and do this during the weeks that the podcast is not being pre-recorded and posted, so that you guys can still reach out and be a part of the discussion. So I think just reach out what you guys think about the Super Bowl coming up. There's two interesting teams there. It's the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I have to say, from my point of view, I was surprised that the Minnesota Vikings aren't in the Super Bowl. Now, as a diehard Bears fan, that's going to be surprising to a lot of people that know me. But I think that the Minnesota Vikings had a lot of the energy that any good championship aspiring team or championship team has. That pedigree. They played so well offensively and defensively. I think that's why a lot of their defensive and offensive coordinator were being scouted for jobs. Shermer and there are other coordinators. I think that's a big key to why that was taking place. And that's the Stephon Diggs catch. I remember watching it myself just like you guys. I think it was really interesting the way he went about it. I mean, he's not like your typical first round draft pick. He went into the draft and he found his own niche. And I think that's very admirable. I mean, Pat Shermer just did an incredible job with that Vikings team. Adjusting to the quarterback injuries the last few years. And just speaking as a Bears fan, I think the Vikings had a chance to make it, but they put up a good fight, and I'm looking forward to seeing what this Sunday's game will bring. And I'll let you guys comment on the broadcast here throughout what you think about the game coming up Sunday, what you think about the Chicago Bulls, as they were in the news about I don't know how many hours ago, like 12, 16 hours ago, like in the afternoon yesterday. They were talking about Nikola Mirotic, and he's been in the headlines a lot the last few months. This Bulls team's rebuilding, but they're doing it on the right foot. And I'm just really impressed with how Gar and Pax are finally doing something with it. And it's really exciting to see, because you want to see a Bulls team that's more competitive than they have been in the last 6 years. And I think I was really surprised, like a lot of you are, that trade did not go through between the Chicago Bulls and the New Orleans Pelicans, because I think it's really cool to see how there was a chance that former Chicago Bull Omer Asik would be coming back to the Chicago Bulls and the draft pick. I hope it would be a pick this year, because I think this draft this year looks very exciting for a lot of fans to check out, college sports fans, professional basketball fans. And that's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about this afternoon. I also want to let you guys know that we are now on Snapchat. Will's Fifth Quarter Special is now on Snapchat. Now, I know people check Facebook, but I know Snapchat is just going to keep growing as a very big social media source, and it's a good way for you guys to reach out to me while we're pre-recording or before and after pre-recordings. And I always try and get it up as soon as possible, because I want you guys to be able to check out what's going on before the game goes on and takes place. And I love the amount of support I've gotten so far for this podcast. And I think something that I've been trying to enforce with it, and something I'm going to continue to try and reach out to you guys about, is one of the final segments on the podcast. It's called Will's Sports Movie Moment. And it's inspired by when I was younger, and you're at a graduation party for somebody all of a sudden, and you're at family get together or just hanging out with your buddies or grandpa or dad even, and you'll talk about sports movies that you like. Now, there's a lot of favorite ones I have that are probably similar to like you guys. I'm a very big Rocky Balboa fan from the classic movies, classic football, baseball, basketball movies, all kinds of stuff like that. And there's a lot of sports movies out there. And you could also compare some of that stuff to modern day sports moments. And I've talked about it with a lot of people. I've had guest co-hosts on this podcast so far, and people that are coming up. And I want to try and get you guys, listeners, involved in this. And on our Facebook page for the podcast and on the Snapchat as well, it's going to be a way for you guys to post your favorite sports movie moment. And here I see Rick. He probably has a few favorite sports movie moments of his own, and a lot of you guys. And I want you guys to be able to take time, if you're able to reach out and just post those anytime, whether it be the day before I release the pre-recording or when I'm getting ready to let you guys know when the next episode will be out. I want you guys to be able to share those, because what I want to do down the road is to have the best sports movie moment that I think would be good to put on the show that you guys post. Out of all of them, I will pick one to read in the pre-recording of the podcast, and you guys will be on that podcast. That person's movie moment will be recognized and mentioned on the podcast as an example. And I really appreciate you guys reaching out today and just getting to know a little bit more about me. I want to get to know a lot more about you guys and my listeners, just because you guys are taking time not just to check this out, but also to listen to Will's Fifth Quarter Special on iTunes Store, Google Play, on my website, and SoundCloud. So the support's definitely appreciated. Share the podcast with your friends, family, and people that you know, just to get the word out, because this type of sports show I'm running, I want it to be a fun sports show that people can tune into, and one that's original, started by somebody that has just as much passion in sports and the ideas in the sports world, whether it be about trades, free agent signings, etc., that you guys have. I'm just an average sports fan like you guys. I'm a college student trying to learn his way and trying to grow as a sports broadcaster down the road. And this is a way for me to do that and give back to you guys. So we're going to touch on a little baseball as well. I could see that a few people are talking about that. And Sox Fest was just a week ago, and I didn't have a chance to go. I was down here at Illinois State doing my thing and going to some of those basketball games. But there were a lot of interesting developments there. And I heard through the grapevine from somebody on the inside here that there was a comparison made between Eloy Jimenez and Kyle Schwarber. And I think that's really interesting to hear that, because Kyle Schwarber is a really good hitter. He came into the league and developed in the minors like a lot of those Cubs players. And I think I'm the Sox fan that's kind of in the middle. I think that Kyle Schwarber is a really good hitter. Sure, he has a bit of inconsistency, but even the best hitters in their greatest seasons, like Albert Pujols or even Paul Konerko, they had slumps like that with their batting average being low and then having to go back up, having to work their way back up to something. And I think just in terms of that comparison, Eloy Jimenez, from what I could tell since the White Sox acquired him in the Jose Quintana trade, is going to be a really good player for this White Sox organization that's obviously trying to change their future. They're learning from their past, and they're changing it. We saw them rebuild in the early 2000s, and look what that team was able to do in 2005. Now, I'm not saying we're going to win the World Series in 2019 and every year. I mean, it's hard to predict that stuff. But I think that'll be really exciting to see down the road in the next 3 years, two Chicago baseball teams, young and competitive like that. I mean, the Cubs are already exciting to watch, I think. And you have a White Sox team of players that can have Michael Kopech and Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert. The list goes on and on, guys. I mean, this upcoming MLB draft is supposed to be very well stacked as well. There's a lot of good college and high school players, and I have a lot of respect for Rick Hahn and the White Sox front office and the scouting department, what Hostetler and his team are doing. They're getting a lot of good college arms the last few years and batters. I mean, those first two rounds in that last draft, you're taking Gavin Sheets in the second round, a good left-handed first baseman. The Sox could use a lot more left-handers because they've always featured a majority of maybe one switch hitter like Melky Cabrera in the last few years and a lot of right-handed hitters. Now, that's not bad, but you want to try and diversify your hitting left and right. And I think that's really important for the White Sox future. It's going to be a big selling point to these prospects because they're working their way up to something. You know, when you're in the minors, you want to work towards something. You want to work up to something. And I think the White Sox staff is doing that well. The organization, they obviously have one of the best and most well-respected pitching coaches that I've ever seen in the game of baseball, and that's Don Cooper. He does just a phenomenal job with his team that he's working with, and he's developed a lot of great pitchers into even better ones. And you see that last year, the way we worked with a lot of veterans. He's going to be able to do that with Michael Kopech, Reynaldo Lopez. Dane Dunning's a really interesting name. Alec Hansen's a really interesting name that just came up in the ranks. Hi, Terry. Good to hear from you. And it's really interesting to see what they're going to be able to do. And now I'm going to branch to the Chicago Cubs because I know a majority of listeners are also Chicago Cubs fans. I don't know too much about the Cardinals yet, but I do know, just to say this briefly for Cardinals fans that are tuning in here to the this live video, that I think they've made some really interesting moves. I mean, the Chicago Cubs, you can compare them with Chicago Cardinals a little bit. Both teams they've had winning ways before. The Chicago Cubs obviously pulling off an incredible 2016 season and winning a World Series for the first time in 108 years. As a Chicago fan in sports, I think that's really exciting for those fans and for the city of Chicago. So I'm congratulatory to them still to this day. But the way that the Chicago Cardinals are trying to do things, I mean, Marcell Ozuna, now that's a really good player they got from the Miami Marlins. Obviously, Derek Jeter wants to do something different with the Marlins, so you're going to see that happen. But it's just really interesting to see what the Cardinals are doing. Now, Dexter Fowler was a good signing, and he still has a good 3 years on that contract, so we're going to have to see what he can do along with Marcell Ozuna. But then they trade Stephen Biscotti and Grichuk, so that was really an interesting move and transition for the St. Louis Cardinals. I think the Cardinals have a good amount of veterans still, a good amount of young players. I think, just speaking as an Illinois State Redbird fan, Paul DeJong is definitely a really interesting player. I mean, you just see the buzz around this campus down here. It's really exciting to see a player of his caliber being able to do what he has done in Major League Baseball. And we're going to go into Illinois State sports right now, too, a little bit. The men's basketball team pulled off an incredible victory against the Valparaiso Crusaders this past Saturday. I had the pleasure to go to that one with my mother and father, so that was a lot of fun. And the women's basketball team also played this weekend in 2 games against the Drake Bulldogs this past Friday night. And this past Sunday, they faced the UNI Panthers. Now, if you think about all 3 of those games, they had one thing in common: expecting the unexpected and teams that started out really good in the first half. And this is just credit to Coach Gillespie here at Illinois State and what she's doing with this women's basketball team. This team was definitely in a different window and a different scene last year than they were this year. The women's team last year, Coach Barb Smith knew what she was doing for the most part, and I think a lot of those players knew what they were doing as well. But I just didn't feel like, as a student, I saw that the coach was fitting really well with the players, because you see it with a lot of great sports teams, whether it be in the NBA with what you're seeing with Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and Clay, what they're doing in Golden State, and in collegiate sports, what Coach K's been able to do with his teams. And you see that culture and team chemistry. As a sports fan, I can't stress that enough, that I think good team chemistry is one of the main ingredients for a team to be successful, whether it be collegiate sports, high school sports, any area and realm and level of sports. And I feel that the Illinois State women's basketball team is reaching that potential this year. Now, they might not have the glamorous winning record with 3 losses type thing that a lot of teams and fans are expecting, but they're playing really good this year. I'm very impressed with what this women's basketball team has been able to do. I think it's really impressive to see Paige Saylor, who came into the program. She's their starting point guard right now. And Katrina Beck's just improved even more this year. She already had a solid season last year. And you're seeing veterans just stepping up. I mean, Hannah Green, to me, I almost think of Chicago Bulls. And Joakim Noah, he was like the heart and soul of that Chicago Bulls team in the 2010s and 2011 area, and for that front court. And you can see that with the Illinois State Redbird women's team. Megan Talbot and Hannah Green and Millie Stevens and Franny Corrigan off the bench. And that, just up the line, they have a lot of really good players. I think an interesting name that I've seen develop throughout this season so far has to be Paige Saylor and Variah Livingston. Simone Goods was out early in the year, and Variah Livingston just came into her own shot with the Redbird team. And I think Coach Gillespie is going to be looking for them to do even better this weekend. Friday night, I'll be on the call for that as the play-by-play man for WZND Fuse Radio. So it's an honor to do that once again. I love working for that station, and I will be on the call with Neil Doyle, Nick Sadowski, and Tom Prizeman. So you guys can tune in to WZND.com or 103.3 FM down here in Bloomington Normal for the call at Redbird Arena Friday night. It'll be a 6:50 pregame, 7 p.m. tip-off. So the women's team, they had 2 games this past weekend, as I mentioned. Now, they came into the games just with the right foot forward. You know, they started playing close and tight transitions with Drake and UNI, which are more experienced teams. And I think I was talking to one of my friends, Nick Landy. He said that it was a really good learning area for the Redbird women's team that we talked about was just growing. You know, they're growing right now with a new coach, a new direction. I think it's a really great direction. I was talking to one of my professors earlier today that the women's basketball team is trying to restore a greatness they used to have back in the 90s here on the campus of ISU. And it's going to be really interesting to see. So I recommend you guys check out the women's basketball team here at Illinois State as they are just continuing to play so well this year. And now we're going to go to the men's team a little bit. Now, that was a game against Valparaiso. Valparaiso is new to the Missouri Valley Conference this year, and I think it's really interesting to see how they approach this game. I mean, it's their first time facing the Redbirds at home at Redbird Arena as a part of the Missouri Valley Conference. Now, a lot of Redbird fans were wondering before that game, I know, just as a fellow Redbird fan as well, like you guys, what's going to happen against this Valparaiso team? I mean, we had Wichita State in our conference last year, and they're comparing our conference this year the way it was with Wichita State last year. And a lot of people expected the Redbirds to, you know, be top of where they are, but they lost 5 of their top 8 players now, respectively. You know, I'm happy to see Parsley doing well in Belgium, you know, after his graduation, and Tony Wills and a lot of the Redbird men's basketball seniors that graduated as well, Javaka Thompson and Mikhail McIntosh and Deontay Hawkins. They transferred as grad transfers, and Mikhail's having a pretty good season, I can tell, so far for Oregon, so I'm very happy for him to see that he's able to accomplish that and continue his career on the right foot. And Deontay Hawkins, it was sad to see him go down with an injury for the year with Boston College. It's never easy to see any player go down with a tough sports injury like that. So my sincerest condolences to his injury, and I hope he recovers smoothly and is able to get back on the court. And this men's team, you know, they played very well against Valparaiso. That first half was closely tight, and there was a play during this game that was just a very big surprise. Now, it's from a player that I've seen grow on this Redbird men's team, just watching as a fan and as a student and as an aspiring broadcaster in the sports world, that the greatest plays come from things you least expect to see, from players that might not be the one getting paid the most money or getting the most starting time, but somebody that just is there at the right time, is able to come through not just for themselves and to sustain a good area in their resume for their future and their career, but for his team. And that was guard Madison Williams of the Illinois State Redbird men's team. He had an incredible dunk. Now, if you picture it right now, the Redbirds have the ball. They're driving it down the court. They still have the lead. It's a close, tight game. And Madison Williams just dunks it over the Valparaiso power forward, and he goes to town on him. And I think I'm gonna give credit to Stacey King here, as my roommate Nicholas DiGraspino and I would joke. Madison Williams baptized that Valparaiso player, and there was a really interesting foul call there. I think it was because Madison Williams was saying something to his opponent there, but that was just a really incredible play. And I think you could say plays like that help a team continue their momentum. The men's team had really good momentum through that, and they just continued after that play. They were able to win against Valparaiso, and they won against the Missouri State Bears last night. That was a really exciting win for the Redbirds. You know, I talked about it before the game this past Saturday. They had a few losses before that they didn't like to see. You know, they lost against Indiana State on the road and Loyola just so many weeks ago after Christmas, and that's not something you want to see. And they're able to bounce back and just do their own thing. And I think you guys should check out this Saturday's game
WZND will also be airing a broadcast for that. I'm sure JVC will as well. WJBC is our AM local radio station here in Bloomington Normal. They broadcast the game as well, and WZND will be broadcasting the Redbird men's basketball game Saturday evening. Thank you. That'll be a 3 p.m. tip-off at Redbird Arena. So there's a lot of sports games for you guys to check out this week. So I see a lot of people are on right now. Go ahead and just feel free to comment about anything I'm talking about here if you guys have a certain opinion about it, any questions. And I'm just going to talk a little more about the podcast here, the framework of it, why it's like this, and what you guys can look forward to seeing coming up on the podcast. And one of the big things is I pride myself on varied content each week and each episode. I feel like that's really important for this show to grow. It's very important to you guys so that you're hearing different things, not just the same old thing every week. And I want you guys to have something you can enjoy. It's not just for me to enjoy working on it, but it's for you guys to enjoy as listeners and as fellow sports fans, because my goal in my career path here, aspiring to be a sports broadcaster, is to try and inspire people like you guys out there in the real world that are sports fans like me and have their own opinions, very well-respected opinions. And I look forward to hearing them. I look forward to hearing more about each one of you and getting to know why you guys like a certain team a certain way, why you guys like a certain game the way it ended. It's just really interesting. There's a lot of different things you can talk about in sports like that, and I'm really excited for where Will's fifth quarter special can go. And the name, I'm sure you guys were wondering at first when you tuned into it. Hopefully, I'm wondering, you guys are probably going to ask me the question, where did Will's fifth quarter special come up as the title idea for this podcast? Now, when I was getting this podcast ready, I wanted to make sure I made a creative title. Now, a lot of sports people will have podcasts called The and their name in the show. I don't want to be that cliche. I'm the type of guy that likes to be original and be his own person, and I think that's really important in that sense. So I was hanging out in my apartment here on campus, and I was coming back from winter break, or I was getting ready to leave for winter break, go back home to Lansing. And speaking of that, hello to my friends and family back in my hometown, Lansing, Illinois. Can't wait to see you guys over spring break. But back to the title there. So the title was just something original I came up with, and I know a lot of sports games in America have 4 quarters. And it made me wonder, what if something was called the fifth quarter? Something original like that. So I came up with Will's fifth quarter special, and it seems to be working really well. So I think that's going to be the name moving forward. And the reason I have that intro line, you guys hear in the podcast, welcome to the blank episode of a show that will show you tell you anything at the end of any sports game, as well as sounds. That's just a creative way for me to get you guys to kind of understand where the title came from and how original I want this show to be. And I feel that it's really important for it to grow in that manner. And I think something I've really liked so far, now, I don't know if you guys have heard the last few episodes recently that I've done over my winter break and just this past week with my roommate Nick Dickerspino as the guest co-host. I think that something I started with that was really good in the collegiate segment, and I was able to compare different teams my guest co-host liked, as well as my choice of Illinois State, men's and women's basketball. And I should let you guys know as well, when a lot of different sports come up more in the collegiate sports area this spring, we will cover a lot of baseball and softball on the campus of ISU and a lot of the local college teams, and volleyball. We'll do a lot of off-season stuff, basketball too. I'm really excited about that. There's a lot of big things coming up for this women's softball team on ISU's campus, and baseball. And there's a lot of exciting sports things out there today. And, the Super Bowl is not just one. I think the Chicago Bulls are going to be a really exciting thing to talk about the next 2-3 days. And I want you guys to be able to give me your opinion on that too. So anything you guys have opinionized, whether it be about the topics you hear on the podcast and things you want me to talk about on the podcast and in the sports area, and things referring to Will's fifth quarter specials movie moment segment, I want you guys to be able to post your own favorite sports movie moments. And I know my roommate Nick shared his with me earlier, and I won't reveal it now because we did the podcast last week, so you guys will have to tune into the episode 5 that's posted on iTunes and Google Play to hear that. But
there's a lot of interesting movies out there, and I want to hear what you guys have as your favorite sports movie moments, because there's a lot of different movies in the sports area that I still haven't seen yet, and you guys have. So I want to hear those. And hello to everyone that just came in: Tommy Botkin, Zach Wilson, and Drew. Glad to have you guys on here with me, and I'm just really excited for where this can go. And you guys can look forward to hearing another new guest co-host next week. It'll be one of my closest friends that I've met on the campus of Illinois State. I work with him at WZND, and his name is Neil Doyle. He's a very well-respected sports and news reporter in my book in the radio industry here that I've seen grow, and just he has his own voice and style. A lot of guys down here have done that. I know one of my best friends that has become like a brother to me too down on campus when I got to know him. His name's Steve Rizal. He started last fall. When I started here, he was my sports director, and I just learned from my directors and people. And I'm excited to say that after Neil Doyle guest co-host next week, February 16th, I'll be pre-recording a 7th episode for Will's Fifth Quarter Special with my closest friend and my mentor in my sports broadcast career path, Mr. Steve Rosales. So we have 2 guest co-hosts you guys can look forward to right there. I want to thank on the point right now in this video the last guest co-host I've had so far in this podcast, Brian Farlow, my father, who I love very much, who basically inspired my choice to follow my dream and become a sports broadcaster. So thank you, Dad, for that. And Kevin Dolinar, Alex Dolinar, Nicholas Tigerspino, I've had the pleasure to work with them on this podcast as well as my guest co-host. And it's just a joy to see a lot of sports fans and people reaching out to me. I think it's just really good, for somebody average like me. Now, I'm not a superstar in ESPN yet, I wish, but I mean, those guys are great. But I think something great about my show is that I'm an original person, with it. I'm keeping it original, and I just started it as an average college student, and you guys can follow that my path and see me grow. Hi, Aunt Patty. Great to see you on here. Carry on the Sox fandom down in Florida, and sat a mic for me, Sean and everybody. And a shout out to Lansing Public Works in Lansing, Illinois, my former summer job coworkers. I miss them very much, and I see they're watching, so I hope you guys are enjoying what you're hearing, and can't wait to see you guys when I come home and visit spring break. And I'm just really excited for where this is going to go. I'm excited to get to know my listeners better, you guys. So check out our official Snapchat for Will's Fifth Quarter Special. It is Will Farlow, all lowercase, no space, 4. And for that reason, it's because I couldn't fit the whole title in the username spot. Darn you, Snapchat login setup. So check out our Snapchat on there. You can also find the website where the SoundCloud embed codes are, which the episodes are available on iTunes and Google Play, but they're also on SoundCloud, where I'm hosting it for free. And those embedded codes are with a lot of broadcast work I've done so far at WZND and things that are going to continue through my broadcast career. I have those on my free website at Weebly.com. It is William D. Farlow, no space, .weebly.com, all lowercase, no space. So I want you guys to be able to check that out as well, so you guys can see what else I'm able to do in this area of broadcast. And I want to see what you guys have to offer me as listeners. Just, I appreciate you guys listening, which means the world to me, but I also want you guys to be able to reach out to me and have your own voice. And that's something I really wanted when I started this podcast, that when people listen to it or hear about it out there, family, friends, or people that know me, I want you guys to be able to give your voice about it towards me as well. I mean, we live in a country where you can share your voice freely, and Will's Fifth Quarter Special allows you to do just that. I want you guys to give me your positive and negative feedback on the podcast, and there's no wrong answers. There's no wrong feedback about it. It just allows me to make this show even better, helps me to grow as an individual, and it makes it even better for you guys to listen to, because I know people take time out of their day to not just check out this video, but listen to it and check me out, and that means a lot to me, because time is valuable in life. I know people have a lot of things going on. I do as well, so it just means a lot to me that people reach out and do that. So in the closing few minutes we have here, I'm going to close out in a few minutes here on this video, so feel free to message here. I see a lot of people are on. Just
message what you guys think about the podcast so far. If you guys have a favorite sports movie moment, feel free to comment when this video finishes. I will try and do this in a few weeks. I plan to have the pre-recorded episode of the podcast up next weekend. So check that out. Check out episodes 1 through 5. It's under the iTunes store. Search under podcasts for Will's Fifth Quarter Special. You can find that as well at Google Play. The subscriptions are free because the beauty of this podcast is I'm not just doing it to grow in my area sports podcast, but it's for you guys, the listeners. So enjoy that for free. And check out our podcast Facebook page. Post your favorite sports movie moments and share them with me. I know people haven't yet, and I understand, but I want you guys to be able to reach out. So please start when you're on Facebook and you see my Facebook page. Try and post your favorite sports movie moment if you have one. You know, if you're thinking about it, or even like about the Super Bowl topic, like post about or message me what you guys think about any games that you've seen, any games that have passed that you guys really want to talk about with me or have talked about. Just leave it out there. You know, leave it out there for me to check out and just learn what you guys like. And I know what a lot of people like on there. Hello to Mike Marr and my cousin Megan, who just joined the video. Glad to have you guys on here. And I just want to dedicate what I'm about to say to my Aunt Patty, as she asked. Love you very much. You're a really great White Sox fan, and you're a really great aunt, so I miss you. So there's your dedication, Aunt Patty. And I just want to thank you guys for tuning in this afternoon. It's a little cold out there. I hope it's not too cold for you guys up north or wherever you guys are right now. But in central Illinois, Bloomington Normal, it's really cold, but I'm luckily able to be warm in my apartment. So I look forward to hearing from you guys after this video finishes. Feel free to comment on it after. And just share the Snapchat with your friends and family and loved ones, people close to you and that you know. Share the podcast with them as well. I want to try and get this podcast out there to everybody because I know there's a lot of average listeners like us and sports fans that want to hear a good original show like that that's free and available to listen to. You don't want to have to pay for something like that. You want to have it available free of charge. You know, a lot of people want that joy, and I'm glad I'm able to give that to you guys. So this is Will Farlow saying so long this afternoon. Not for long. You guys will have the opportunity to hear me this weekend. This Friday night, I will be doing women's basketball play-by-play for WZND on the campus of Illinois State University at Redbird Arena. It'll be a 6:50 p.m. pregame start. So you guys can tune in at 7 as well. That's when the game will tip off. It'll be the women's basketball game as the Lady Redbirds take on the Loyola Ramblers of Chicago. And I'd also recommend you guys checking out the men's basketball game. That's going to be a really good matchup, I think, against Evanston. And I have to give you guys my Super Bowl pick right now before I get off here because I know I talked about that on the podcast. I'm hoping for the Philadelphia Eagles to reign victorious in honor of Carson Wentz. So sorry, Illinois State Redbird fans. I know I just quoted support to a North Dakota State rival quarterback from the past, but I think he deserves that, you know, and the team in the city of Philadelphia that's been looking for victories in championships for a long time. So this is Will Farlow. I will see you guys on the airwaves Friday night, 6:50 p.m. pregame start. Tune in at WZND.com or 103.3 FM. Check out the podcast episodes. Check out the website, whatever you guys feel free. Just please check out this podcast. Enjoy these episodes that I have made for you guys to enjoy. Share it with people you know, and I'll see you guys very soon. So this is Will Farlow saying so long from Bloomington Normal, Illinois. Enjoy the rest of your day.